Here we are.
Yeah!
Yay.
I already feel
Okay.
bad because mine's a shit post.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
care.
no. This is literally anything, Yeet. This is literally anything. It could be
Oh,
funny. It could be
thank God.
informative. Okay,
I'm
so thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming to PowerPoint night or TED Talk night, whichever.
PowerPoint 2022.
Yeah, PowerPoint night 2022 at practically New Year's Eve. Oh, almost the day before. Either way, yeah. So this is an opportunity for literally anyone to create a presentation. Either you could do a PowerPoint, you could do a speech, but essentially, you just make a presentation of whatever you'd like, and just present it however you'd like, whatever you want to talk about. It could be funny, it could be informative, anything at all. This was Mooney's idea, so she will be the one to start us off whenever she is ready. Mooney.
Good. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay.
So have fun.
I'll be doing a presentation on Shin Godzilla. It's a movie, and I know that some of you have seen it already since we held like a server watching of it. But if you haven't seen it, I really, really, really do urge you to see it. Because there will be like spoilers for it in this presentation. So, if you want to go out for a second while I do this, so you won't be spoiled, that's fine. But yeah, but if you want to stay in here, then yeah, thank you. So I'll be, rather than covering the movie, I'll be covering a specific part of the movie, a song from the movie specifically. And yeah, here we go. So this is a list of vocal songs that are featured in Shin Godzilla. It was very hard searching for the OST for this movie, because rather than just listing out the Shin Godzilla OST, for some reason both YouTube and Google just compiled like every song that this music director made for all of the Godzilla movies he worked for, and just put them all in one music list under the name Shin Godzilla, even though some of them were not from Shin Godzilla, they're from other Godzilla movies.
Very annoying.
So yeah, but I tried my best to compile only the vocal songs that came from Shin Godzilla only. And so this is a list of the songs. I'll mention all these in the presentation, but the one that we'll be focusing on is this one, by the title of Who Will Know, or it's also known as Tragedy, but it's mainly known as Who Will Know. Okay, and I made a little layout of how I'll be going over the song. First, we'll just be going just a typical line by line lyrical analysis. I'll show you the song first without the lyrics, and then the next slides will be like over like each stanza. The song has like 4 stanzas, and for each of the stanzas, I'll be showing you the clip of that song, the part of the song, and then we'll go through the lyrics like that, and then we'll compare it to the other songs, the other vocal songs that I listed over here, and just see where the differences are, the interesting things from that. And then finally, I'll show you the scene from the movie that this song is from, where it's played, and we'll see the importance of that and how that contributes to the song and the movie overall.
Sick.
Okay. I embedded the song in, so yeah, I hope this works. Tell me if it doesn't.
If you're sharing your whole screen, then the music won't go through. So you'll have to shift to the to pulling up YouTube and then sharing YouTube directly. You know.
Okay.
Or we could just pull up like an activity and play them aside.
Oh yeah.
Maybe. Since it won't flag our own video because you're recording it.
Yeah. Though the thing is, it might be copyright blocked on the activity.
I mean, only one way to find out.
Okay.
Alright,
you okay with that one?
What are we doing?
Are you able to put the song onto the activity?
How do I do that?
Let's see. Purrs, are you there?
Yeah.
Are you able to give everyone editing host rights?
Oh wait, what the heck? I'm the
I
captain.
have it.
Why am I the captain?
Okay.
Yes, I've allowed everybody.
Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, so Moony, you'll be able to now go through this video, and wherever you skip to, it'll skip there for everybody.
Okay, so I can just play it from here.
I believe so. I believe so.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll play right now and just tell me if you don't hear it.
Okay. No, it's not playing. Are you doing it through the activity, Moony?
Oh,
It's a different button.
Yeah, it's a different.
do I need to go to Discord for it, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you go to Discord for it.
Okay.
Ta-ta-ta-ta.
We're gonna be
To the
monsters at
activity?
this next
This
year.
one?
Yeah, it should be the one with Godzilla in it.
Kinsey.
Okay.
There you are.
Yep.
Yep, that played just now.
Okay.
Love this OST.
Oh wait, can you do the one without lyrics? Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause the one from like the topic channel without the lyrics.
Top left? Or without lyrics?
Without the lyrics. The one from like the topic channel.
Topic.
Yeah.
You're able to, if you
Sure,
click the
that's
arrow
a
on that left,
level.
Moony, you're able to put it in yourself. If you have it.
Okay, maybe. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Fine.
I feel like everyone's gonna have really well structured ones, and then there's gonna be me and Ratbag.
I'm going
Because
to.
I walked into his room. His is worse than mine.
Yeah, okay, Moony, you'll have to screen share yours. Sorry about that.
Aw.
Dang it. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No worries. Let's go back to her screen share. And Yeet, I assure you, you're not alone.
No, he's
What do you
not.
mean by this?
Yeah, Moony. So you'll have to stop your screen share and go to YouTube, and then like share the specific window essentially.
Okay. Hold on.
Mhm.
Okay, I have to stop streaming.
Yeah, stop streaming
No.
and then share a specific window.
Okay.
Yeah, share the specific YouTube window. And make sure your experimental audio is turned on, because opera.
Okay.
I mean, if you listen to music, this might as well be an opera. Jackie.
We are Dizzy. We are using PowerPoints, but you don't have to if you don't have one. If you have just a vocal presentation, or if you only have pictures, you could also just do that. This is pretty open, like free form.
Ew. We don't talk about that channel.
Okay.
Okay. I don't really know how this is gonna work for how I set my stream, but that's fine, I guess. Okay.
Let's see if we hear it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we hear it.
Yeah, we hear it.
Okay.
God, I love that song so much.
Okay, yeah, now that is the song that we'll be analyzing. We'll probably be able to use the activity for the rest since I am presenting the lyrics. I just wanted everyone to listen to that the first time without knowing what the lyrics were.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And so I'll just share my screen then.
Here you
Okay. Okay, and so before we actually delve into the lyrics, I wanted to talk about the structure of the song. So the thing with when you listen to other songs, they're about a what? Okay. Is it playing?
Yeah, it's playing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's playing. Somebody started that for some reason.
No, okay.
Knowing that.
That was me. I thought
Okay.
I thought things were going on in the activity.
Okay.
No activity.
Okay, yeah. And so the structure of the song. Okay, so when you
Moony,
usually listen to a song.
you're sharing Discord directly, by the way. You're not sharing your PowerPoint, if that's what you're doing.
Oh, god dang it.
No worries. Yeah, share your whole screen this time.
So bad at this.
No. Something none of us have really done before. It's a learning experience.
That's right.
There you are. Hell yeah.
Yeah, so when you listen to a song,
Mm-hmm.
usually the song is about a general premise, right? The lyrics are like puzzle pieces. Each line is a different piece, and when you connect those pieces, they form an image that tells you what the whole song is about and what that premise is. And while the song is like that, and the fact that it is kind of like a puzzle piece or a puzzle that you put together, it also has a unique structuring to it where it, like all songs, you don't really know what it's about in the beginning. But as you listen to it and as you analyze the lyrics, at the very end, you narrow down what the subject of the song is, and then you figure it out. And then you go back and the lines start looking like those puzzle pieces that you connect to find that final image. And I think that's just really, really interesting. And so I just wanted to take you all through that kind of, how I kind of figured that out.
Cool.
And so, I'll do that. Okay. Activity. We'll listen to the first part of the song now.
Oh crap, I need to turn the activity. Oops.
So that's the first part of the song. And this is when the first tear comes in. And when you read the lyrics, if I die in this world, who will know something of me? I am lost, no one knows, there's no trace of my yearning. So, can someone pause that? Thank you. These lyrics can apply to anyone. Really. When Godzilla first attacks, there's this big monster that's attacking the whole city, taking down buildings and wiping out civilians left and right. And so this subject, whoever is singing this song, sings of how they know that if they die, like who's going to remember them. And it makes sense because, people are getting killed left and right. Thousands of people are dying. And so if and when you die to Godzilla, you just become a number, No one's really going to remember you. You just become, one of the people that Godzilla killed. You don't really leave anything behind except the fact that you're just one of the many that died in this situation. And so this category basically includes anyone in the situation. By the time that Godzilla's rampage happens, there's already so much death, and more death is sure to come, And eventually, all the people that die kind of just become a number, and you just can't be remembered as a single special person. And yeah. So this first tier includes anyone in the situation, basically. And then the next, whoopsie. Okay, the second tier. Okay. Can someone pause it there?
There you are.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and the second tier, the lyrics, but I must carry on. Nothing worse can befall. All my fears, all my tears, tell my heart that there's a hole. So these lyrics kind of narrow down who the subjects can be. It goes from basically everyone in the population to a person of importance from the first line, but I must carry on. Mm-hmm. That implies, this person has importance to them. This person has a power to them that they can actually do something. While the civilians of Japan that are getting attacked are powerless, all they can do is really run and bid by whatever the government tells them to do. This person who must carry on, quote unquote, they have something that they need to do and that they must survive. And you can also view it from a meta level, like, but I must carry on. Like, this person maybe is like a main character of the story. They have actual importance to the story. That's why they must carry on. And this is also supported by the second line, nothing worse can befall. Like, their death means that if they die, then everything is gone. Everything is hopeless. And, well, nothing worse can befall also can refer to Godzilla, of course. He's a gigantic monster that kind of breaks all known rules of science. A being that is literally made to be indestructible and then cannot be reasoned with at all. So how is he gonna be stopped, How is this rampage gonna end? and nothing worse can befall. I actually also think that it could be seen in a different way. Let's say that humanity actually builds some sort of weapon that can kill or destroy completely a monster like Godzilla, who's made not to be destroyed. If humanity was able to create a weapon like that, then it's only a matter of time that they would use that weapon against themselves, right? So allowing Godzilla to, or not being able to destroy Godzilla means possibly the end of Japan and even the world. But being able to completely destroy him also means the end of the world, in a sense. And then all my fears, all my tears, tell my heart that there's a hole. Just conveying the utter despair of the whole situation, of course. And then we go to the next tier.
Sorry, I gotta leave and rejoin the activity every time.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, somebody else pause that.
Can you pause it? Thank you.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. And the next lines.
Oh. Keeps them being... Okay. And we just...
Okay. I were a void, not even hope. A downward slope is all I see. So this part is a bit tricky. It's more like a transition rather than conveying an actual subject of the song. They can be used to just convey the utter hopelessness of the situation. I were a void, not even hope left. A downward slope is all I see. A void meaning, the anguish of the situation, just heavy on everyone's shoulders, almost unbearable. The utter defeat that must be coursing through everyone at the situation. And, a downward slope being a metaphor for just the general state of affairs. Everything is kind of going to hell at that point with Godzilla attacking. There's nothing anyone can do about it. But there's also something strange in these lyrics, especially in the lines, I were a void and a downward slope. Those lines especially are worded a bit strangely. Like, I were a void. The word void kind of conveys something much higher than thou, like overwhelming, kind of all-consuming, That doesn't really, the word void isn't really used to apply to something normally. And a downward slope is just in general kind of worded a bit weirdly too. Yeah, going on to the final lines.
Rejoin activity.
You should start at 1 minute and 29 seconds.
Okay. 1 minute 29. Okay, 1 minute 29.
Okay. So the
cool.
final line of the song. Yeah. By the way, I forgot to mention, I grayed out the lines that just repeat themselves because the female singer repeats herself so in the song. So I just grayed those out so we could focus on the new lines from the song, just in case you're wondering. But yes, as long as breath comes from my mouth, I may yet stand the slightest chance. A shaft of light is all I need to cease the darkness killing me. So finally, the subject of the song is revealed in the very, very last lines, actually. Shaft of light is, of course, can only be referencing Godzilla's own atomic breath as pictured. And, yeah. So the lines describe the subjects benefiting from the atomic breath in some way. So who is the only person in the movie that can benefit from Godzilla's own atomic breath but Godzilla, of course? Yeah, the song is about Godzilla. Who knew? Who know? Who know? But yeah, the tragedy experienced and explained throughout this entire song is not from the people suffering from Godzilla and his rampage, but Godzilla himself not being able to control basically any aspect of his own nature, coming into existence by complete chance because of humans experimenting on nuclear weapons and pouring nuclear radiation into the oceans, and living basically an excruciating life, his whole body basically just being a nuclear power plant, and doomed to just kill everything in his path, whether he wants to or not, while being bombarded by weapons and attacks endlessly as humans try to kill him for something that he may not even want to do. And on a biological level, Godzilla is like the perfect organism. His body evolves in real time to make sure that he never dies. And his sole purpose is to survive and live. But he can't do anything but those two things. His existence is one of pure misery to both himself and everyone that encounters him. And yet, he still has hope that maybe his existence will be better. That maybe one day he will find reprieve. And he, as I said earlier, the lines mention that he finds solace in his atomic breath. And his atomic breath is used not only as an attack, but a way to release the nuclear radiation that is manifesting inside of his body. So the only way he can find just a tiny bit of rest is by releasing all of this power, by attacking everything around him in one way or another. And yeah. I know. You don't have to play the song anymore.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course.
And so I'd like to revisit some of the lines now that we know it's Godzilla. Now that we know that the subject of the song is Godzilla, some of the lines you'll see have kind of a double meaning to them. At the beginning, we thought that maybe humans were the ones that were the subject of the song. But now that we know it's Godzilla, there's a bit of a double meaning to some of the lines. So from the first part, there's no trace of my yearning. Godzilla started as a very basic organism. I mean, yeah, he was still giant and he was still powerful and he was still able to destroy everything in his path. But he was just kind of moving along. He had no sense of direction or anything. He was kind of mindless. But it's possible that throughout the movie, as he evolved, he at some point gained a sort of self-awareness or conscious of himself and figured out that in the world he is by himself basically. So there's no trace of my yearning. This line reveals that Godzilla is basically capable of at least some sort of emotion, of yearning. Okay, and next line. But I must carry on. Nothing worse can befall. So, after reading this line for the first time, you might assume that whoever the subject of this song is simply just, wants to survive out of basic instinct, maybe stubbornness or a sense of duty to those around him, or, the fear of death. Mm-hmm. But now that we know it's Godzilla, we can infer that this line means Godzilla's literal inability to die. But I must carry on. That doesn't mean that this person is determined to carry on. It means that Godzilla is literally forced to carry on because of the nature of his whole body. He cannot die even if he wants to. He will just keep on living and living and living as he is being attacked and suffers through his body going through chemical nuclear reactions. And nothing worse can befall refers to Godzilla's fate of just never dying, never being able to die. He is forced to live, and then even if he wants to die, and what's worse than that, he's constantly being attacked at every chance that he can get by the humans that, kind of made him in the first place. Okay. And then tell my heart that there's a hole. Godzilla's inside is just basically a nuclear plant, just a giant molecular soup going through various reactions and making radiation building up inside of him. Then that means that Godzilla literally doesn't have any organs. He doesn't have a heart. There's literally a hole where his heart should be. But it's pointed out that Godzilla was made from nuclear radiation. I think, where is it? Godzilla came from a long extinct fish species, and the nuclear radiation that humans dumped into the ocean kind of made it into Godzilla. And so there's a possibility that there is some subconscious part of Godzilla that remembers the organism that he used to be before, becoming what he is now. And so imagine or like evolving at such like a fast rate, becoming alive in like a day, and then after that gaining a consciousness, and then subconsciously remembering that you used to be this mindless organism and now you're whatever Godzilla is. Okay. I wear a void. This is, I think the most basic meaning of this is just referring to Godzilla's black scales. You know, plus Godzilla kind of towers over everything. If you like stands near him, he'll probably black out the sky. You know, with how giant he is overall. He kind of blocks out all light. It looks like a void is approaching you if Godzilla walks near. Okay, a downward slope is all I see. Again, Godzilla is gigantic. He towers over everything. When he looks down on Earth's surface, he literally sees a downward slope. So this line was a bit. I said that this line was written a bit weirdly before, and now we know the double meaning of it. It can be taken literally. Okay, and of course, the last line. Godzilla is a constant pain because of the radiation building up inside of his body. And like I said before, he finds reprieve in casting his atomic breath, even though it destroys everything in his path. It's the only way that Godzilla can get rid of that radiation and find a bit of relief for his body. Okay. Going back to the song's title, actually, I wanted to analyze it. So the song has two titles, Who Will Know and Tragedy. So who will know? That does the thing where like, oh, the song title is in the song. Wow. And it's in the second line of the song, Who Will Know Something of Me. And Godzilla, it shows Godzilla is desperate for anyone at all to acknowledge his suffering. And so he asked, who will know of his suffering, who will know everything that he is feeling and has gone through. And of course, it's us. The who is us, all of the audience watching the movie. This song is used to convey and describe to us, the audience, all of his struggles, all of what he's going through, all of his worries. And we are the only ones that can understand that there's no way for Godzilla to outright speak, to tell anyone what he's going through. And so the only way that anyone will know is through the movie, through this song. And we are the only ones that can actually listen to the song. No one within the movie can do it, of course. And the second title, Tragedy, it refers to Godzilla's tragedy, how he will suffer eternally in this indestructible body as humans bombard him with weapons and attacking him. And though I will say there's also secondary meanings to the titles, just as there are secondary meanings to the lyrics. I tried to make like a little chart of it, since I know what I am describing can be a bit confusing, so just bear with me for a minute. Okay, so I already went through the primary meanings. Who will know? In meaning, is there anyone that will understand Godzilla's plight? And tragedy, the suffering that Godzilla experiences because of his biological makeup. And it's a bit confusing because I use like the first meanings to like lead to the second meaning. So hopefully the graphic will make it a bit easier to understand what I'm trying to convey.
You're all good.
Yeah. Okay. The secondary meaning to who will know. So we've gone through the first meaning of tragedy, but the secondary meaning of who will know comes from this meaning. And it's who will know. It could also refer to asking the question, who's going to suffer from the tragedy that this song describes? You know, we didn't know that the song was about Godzilla in the first place. So this title asks us to figure out who the song is about. Basically, the song is about a tragedy, but who will know this tragedy? And then the secondary meaning. I said before that who will know, who will understand Godzilla's plight? It was us. It was us that will understand his plight, because we are the only ones that can understand it. It's only we can. The song can only be conveyed to us. But really, what use is that to Godzilla? You know, we are but the audience, and yet Godzilla is in the screen. There's no way for us to just reach in and say, "Oh, we understand you, Godzilla. Go." You know, we're out here, and he's still in the movie, still suffering. No one can really bring him any reprieve, because still there's no one around Godzilla that understands him. And yeah, even though we understand, there's nothing we can do. And so that brings me to comparison to the other songs that I mentioned earlier. These are the lyrics to all of the songs. I'll just go through them real quickly. So the first vocal song is Black Angels. After revenge, we will fight to the end, and the prophet of tune will be silence again, just to be crushed to despair with no blood to be spared, as a thunderous cloud would descend like black angels of the Lord. Defeat is no option. Lift your head up from the battle, though your spirit may be fragile. Your skin is pale and ashen, in your blood runs pride and passion. Only defeat is no option. Lift your head for one more battle, then your spirit may be free. Persecution of the masses. Secret blessings not for nothing. O God, give us your protection. Let no blame lie the innocence you have prayed. If your high praise is all we have, let us not be without you. And under the burning sky, torrent of rage raining down from high. Sin, and you shall repent, suffer the pain and the consequence instead. Temper the beast that lies within. Fight to repel all mortal sin. Judgment on us will befall. Sleep thoughts of all resentment. Think not holy redemption. And so these are kind of shortened. I cut out the lines that repeated in the songs because this is already a bit long. I know that's a lot of lyrics, but so Black Angels, it can be interpreted as being from in the middle of humanity's fight against Godzilla. Humanity realizes that Godzilla is resilient, but still want to believe that they can defeat him somehow, saying we'll fight to the end. With no blood to be spared. Defeat is no option. Listening to the song, it kind of sounds like a military anthem of sorts. Lift your head up from the battle, though your spirit may be fragile. Speaking of battle, speaking of how only defeat is no option. So the only resolution to Godzilla will come from fighting. There is no other choice. Persecution of the masses is when everyone has kind of realized how screwed they are because of Godzilla. No longer do they speak of fighting and battle like in these two songs before. Instead, they pray to God, "Oh God, to give us your protection. Let no blame lie at the innocents who have prayed." And I think this line at the end here speaks especially. If your high phrase is all we have, let us not be without you. At this point, humanity will take anything that they can get. Because, there's really nothing that they can do now. Godzilla, they've thrown everything they got at Godzilla, and he's still not dead. He's still going at full force. So what's there left to do except to just pray? And then under the burning sky. Well, actually, going back to this line, I find it a bit hypocritical of humans to pray to God for his protection. And yet, in the first song, they compare Godzilla to the Black Angels of the Lord, saying Godzilla was maybe sent from God, so to judge them or to serve them divine punishment. And now they pray to God for protection. I think that was a bit interesting. Okay, and the final song. I think this is when the humans start to kind of give up and accept Godzilla as kind of repentance for just everything that humanity has done to the world. Like, Godzilla has come to punish them basically for their negligence, for everything that they've done that humanity has done to the world and to themselves with such recklessness. All the wars, all the fighting, all the neglects for just nature and everything around them in general. Suffer the pain and the consequence instead. Sin and you shall repent. Temper the beast that lies within. Fight to repel all mortal sin. Think not holy redemption. So a lot of talk about, sin, consequences, redemption. As these songs kind of go on, they kind of ring a more and more religious tone to them. Because humanity's first response is to fight. And then as they realize fighting does nothing, they return to religion. Okay. And then, as you probably noticed, when talking about how all these songs are about, or what all these songs are about, I said that they're about humans. And, it took so long to analyze the other song for it to be about Godzilla. And now I just know that all these songs are from the perspective of humans. And so I think it's pretty interesting, really, that all these songs are from the perspective of humans, and they use words like we, your, us, you. Those words imply a group of people singing together. We and us mainly implies like a group of people like chanting it together, or like some sort of a group of people. Yeah, just like an organization sort of. And then the songs that say you or your, they imply that someone is talking to you, someone is encouraging you, or like lecturing you or something. So it still implies multiple people, even though it's still kind of a looser implication. But when it comes to who will know, it's the only vocal song that uses I and me. There is only a singular subject of this. There is no one else. It is just Godzilla. It even more, it emphasizes how truly alone he is in his suffering. That there is no one else. Just as he fears, there is no one else who will know his suffering. And another interesting thing that I noticed in these songs are the singers. We only listen to Who Will Know, and I'm just not gonna. I won't make you listen to all of these songs because they're a bit long. But all of these songs are composed of either a male choir or a mixed choir of male and female. But for Who Will Know is the only song that prominently features the female choir singing rather than just the female choir being mixed in with the male choir. And it's Who Will Know is the only song that alternates between the female choir singing and then the male choir singing back and forth like that. And looking at the lyrics that the female choir sings, if I die in this world, who will know something of me? I am lost, no one knows, there is no trace of my yearning. And then the other line, I were a void, not even hope, a downward slope is all I see. The female choir sings primarily of the most vulnerable parts of Godzilla. His want to give up, his lack of hope for any kind of redemption or relief, his desire just for anyone to understand him. And yet, when the male choir sings, it's, but I must carry on, nothing worse can befall, all my fears, all my tears, tell my heart there's a hole. As long as breath comes from my mouth, I may yet stand the slightest chance. A shaft of light is all I need to cease the darkness and killing me. The male choir sings of Godzilla's own strength, of his willingness to fight on, to go on. And I think it was just a really interesting. Okay, I think it was a really interesting contrast between the male and female choir. Okay, sorry. Can you play the atomic breath scene from Godzilla in the activity?
Let's see. Okay, it's in the activity.
Okay, so all of you were able to see the song in context of the movie itself. And so earlier I talked about how the song was kind of a funnel, and how from the first line it talked about the first lines could be applied to basically everyone, the general populace, the main characters, and Godzilla himself. But as the lines of the song went on, you could slowly narrow down the subject, and finally you would arrive at Godzilla to remind everyone this is the kind of thing that I was talking about earlier. And I think actually the scene itself that the song plays follows this same funnel. pattern. And so in the beginning, the pictures I grabbed from the video itself, so they're a bit weird. So I hope that no one minds it. But at the beginning of the video, when the song starts, it first shows Godzilla, the Japanese prime minister, looking on at Godzilla's destruction, and then the general populace of Japan and the main characters fleeing from Godzilla's destruction. And that's everyone. That's all the people that the movie focuses on: the general populace of Japan, the government, and main characters, and Godzilla himself. And they all appear in the first part of the song too. And then when the second part of the song plays, only the main character and Godzilla himself is shown. Okay. And as the third part of the song comes, to be honest, this one is a bit of a stretch since it's a transition. And I put a higher power in parentheses. And so the second tier was about the main cast or the government body. And the subject of the song is Godzilla, of course. So what's the kind of transition between the Japanese government / main characters and Godzilla? Well, in the third part of the song, the video primarily shows the American government. And throughout the movie, the American government has kind of been assisting the Japanese government while still being at odds with them. So it's really interesting because the American government in the movie and its military power is shown that the Japanese government believes that the American government and military has enough firepower to actually kill off Godzilla. But by allowing the American government to step in, Japan would kind of be like going against its own pride in a way. And plus, handing it over to the military government means that the whole situation might be escalated to a point that the Japanese government doesn't want it to be, since America is a world power in a way. And so, and of course, after America threatens to just drop atomic bombs on Godzilla at one point, and that would just bring total disaster, because that would just be like a second coming of World War II, what happened to Japan. So, but it's Godzilla we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Even if it results to that, Godzilla is a possible world-ending threat. And so the Japanese government is basically has to submit under the American government will at the end. And so just as Japan is at the mercy of Godzilla, the Japanese government is also at mercy of the American government at the end, even though they have to kind of work together. So I think it's interesting that the American government is shown as a transition point, kind of. It kind of does fit, even though it's a bit of a stretch. Okay. And of course, as the last part plays, solely Godzilla is shown in all of his glory. And then just my final point I wanted to touch on the sound design of the overall scene. Since the whole scene is basically Godzilla kind of destroying the whole city and letting his atomic breath out, the sound effects mainly consist of him like roaring, his atomic breath, and the collapse of the buildings and structures around him. And this means that some parts of the song are inevitably drowned out by the noise. But I think it's interesting that since the song is being sung by a male and female choir, the higher pitch of the female choir stands out much more than the more baritone nature of the male choir. And the baritone nature of the male choir kind of makes them get canceled out by the noise. And because of that, the lyrics that they sing are also canceled out, of course. So the lyrics that the female singers are voicing out stand out much more, and they sing about vulnerability and suffering, while the more encouraging lyrics of the male choir, how Godzilla must go on, are canceled out. So because the male choir is canceled out, the portion where the song literally reveals that it's about Godzilla goes completely unheard. And I think it's a very revealing metaphor of the overall situation, because the song itself is built as a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's about Godzilla's mourning over how his suffering will be unknown to everyone, but it will be unknown to anyone but himself. And the most vital part of the song, the portion where it reveals that it's about him, is cut out because of the sounds of his own destruction and attacking the city. And so it makes it impossible to connect the song back to him. It kind of mirrors how the people in the movie are probably feeling, how they must view Godzilla. The lines from the female chorus are almost completely audible and sing about utter vulnerability and helplessness. Those lines can apply to everyone in that scene, the citizens, the main characters, and now we know the Godzilla too. But when you see him demolishing everything in his path with his atomic breath and destroying the entire city in seconds, you're not gonna think for a second that Godzilla is somehow weak or vulnerable or suffering to any degree, or that he deserves an ounce of sympathy. Just the sound effects of his destruction blocked out the song's connection to him, and the visual showcase of it. Just how the sound effects of his destruction blocked out the song's connection to him. The visual part of the video of him destroying everything with his atomic breath blocked out any understanding that the characters or the audience might have had for him in the first place. Yeah, thank you. That's that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
Nice.
welcome back.
Hey.
Thank you for listening. Sorry for the rambling. I was like really
Ooh,
nervous.
that's awesome.
I know I kind of jumped around and I might have not made that much sense for some parts, but
Oh, no,
thank
Moony.
you everyone for
Amazing
listening.
job.
No, that was incredibly informative, and like it's just a lot of passion behind it. I love it.
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
kind of genuinely profound, honestly.
To like, it just shows a deep appreciation for like what it is and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
I would have never got that if you never told me. I would have never caught any of that.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that
Very
deep.
nice.
Yeah.
That was
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you were there with us when we watched Shin, right, Purrs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, yeah. I was amazed when she told me all this back then, and you added a lot to it in the meantime. I'm really glad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you did an amazing job, Moony. God, that was so good.
Thank you.
I'm finally glad. I'm glad you were able to finally get that to everybody, and that I was able to record it. Yeah.
I know it's a bit scuffed, so thank you for bearing with me.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Moony. You did an amazing job. Thank you for all the work you put into that.
Thank you for listening. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I clap.
All right. Thank you so much, Moony. Well, okay. I guess is there anyone who would want to go next?
I'll fucking do it.
Oh my god. Okay. Okay. Sure.
This is
I'll probably go after him.
Okay. Sounds good for us. Ooh. Let's go. Okay.
No.
All right.
Alright.
Yeet.
Y'all already know the life I'm about.
Okay.
No.
Yeet will be our second person presenting today. This is going to be a jump.
Alright, so
Okay.
y'all would like to join the stream.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Wait.
Hello guys. So
That's a wide monitor.
yes it is. So today we're gonna be giving a presentation.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh sorry, this isn't the right tab.
Oh. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh sorry, this isn't the right
Oh god.
We'll save that one for later.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Hello. Alright, so this is my presentation.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Alright, so hello guys. Why you shouldn't do a presentation. Okay? Presentations are
Activate
bullshit.
Windows.
Okay, listen.
It
Alright.
just adds to it all.
So why you shouldn't whoops. We have to go back. Presentations are dog shit. Who the fuck wants to sit here and listen to people talk? Not me. Anyways. Exhibit A. Why you shouldn't give presentations. Top G shit. Andrew Tate. The
God
man
damn it!
Do you see him giving presentations? Yes. You want to know what happened? Romania got him.
What is that under the A?
It's another picture of Andrew Tate. But, yeah, you see, top G shit, you can't be put down. You can't be wasting your time listening to people give presentations. You shouldn't be giving presentations. That's how he got caught. Someone pissed him off, he made a video, and the fucking IRS tracked him down. They were like, that pizza box is from Romania. And they arrested his ass. Anyways.
Oh.
My favorite.
Right? Corinne, right?
Over the past century, Mike was the most popular name. Oh, whoops. Alright, we'll listen to the link after, okay? So, anyways. All my homies hate presentations.
I like
As you can see, me on the left versus a loser presentation giver on the right. Behold, me and my friend mocking the silly presentation givers. I have friends. I definitely, most certainly, have friends.
I'm gonna strangle you. I'm gonna kick your ass. Oh. Oh.
My favorite.
So, these are thoughts that I have on a daily basis, because I have to think about people that give presentations. Little known fact, presentationers don't put the toilet seat down after using it. Also with presentations, Anyways, presentationers have to manipulate images. How do you flip images? I don't fucking know. Fun fact, I had the shit. Oh, that's an iFunny watermark. I didn't notice that. That's pretty cool. Alright. Anyways, we got off topic, okay?
Wait, you,
Exhibit
those
D.
went hard. Can I screenshot those?
Yeah, here you go, man.
Okay, thank you. I got them. Appreciate it.
Okay,
Oh,
cool.
God.
Alright, so now on to Exhibit B.
Oh, Jesus!
Who the fuck? Hello? Hello? What do you mean? Huh? Wait, no. Wait, you're telling me this is a presentation for giving presentations? Well, you know, I mean, damn, that's, yeah. Alright, so, yeah, fun fact about this slide.
Oh my god.
It goes a little bit beyond, but, oh, did it? Oh, I broke the link.
Yeah, hypertext has been working. What do you expect?
It's your birthday, Michael.
God.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Wait for it.
Look,
Wait for it.
I'm waiting.
Wait for
This
it.
is the. Oh
Wait
god.
for it.
Yeah. Alright.
Wait, welcome back. What?
I think there was
That
other
was my presentation.
Oh my god.
Oh my
Oh
god.
my god, Yeet. That was the most insane whiplash I've ever experienced in my life. Oh my god. Oh. I feel like I was in a bullet train that just went a 180 and crashed into itself. Oh,
I'm
Jesus
very
Christ.
proud of my presentation.
Oh.
So, Ratbag has so graciously granted me his presentation.
Mm-hmm.
If y'all would be interested in me doing his as well.
Alright.
Could
Go
you
for
do
it.
that after Purrs?
Yeah.
He can go. He can go.
Okay.
Oh wait. Oh wait.
Yeah,
Actually,
so there's like
and-
comprehensive order,
Yeah,
kind of.
give them a break of me. I'm also not gonna look at these, so I'm going in blind.
Oh
oh
god.
god.
Also, for the sake of humanity, that we have a lapse between Yeets and Ratbags.
Yeah.
I'm starting to like play the lyrics of "Who Will Know." Tragedy.
In your own head.
The tragedy of Yeet Plagueis the Unwise.
Okay, first go ahead.
I mean, I think my presentation was pretty
Okay.
good.
It's pretty
it's very
great.
good.
Thank you, Yeet.
It's wonderful.
It's like, I just
Nicely done.
Yeah.
yeah.
That was epic.
Alright, next up.
Go for it first.
Next episode of Naked and Afraid. Jason goes out and smashes some rocks.
Michael,
Celebrate another birthday bash. Michael, it's your
Okay.
birthday today. Come and celebrate it all this way. Michael.
Such a-
I was gonna play some music as well.
Yeah, go for it. Or join the activity.
Wait, whoa. What?
Just want to
Yeah, I
say
guess
while I
would
was
it be easier that way?
Yeah. What's up?
God.
just want to say while I was sharing my screen, I was like also like desperately trying to close my windows out of my Yowie tab.
Base alert.
got Yowie on
Base
the
alert.
side. So also, I don't know if you noticed the title of my presentation.
What was?
I know it was a link to Markiplier's OnlyFans.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
saw
was.
that.
Oh my god.
I was thinking the link was just thing.
Oh no, it works. And I have a subscription.
Ah,
Good.
lucky.
It's very classy.
Oh, I bet. All
That
right.
sounds like Markiplier, yeah.
Excuse me. Oh, yeah, there.
Oh no.
You might want to share your whole screen, Purse. Just the
Yeah.
monitor that the presentation's on.
Yeah, don't share your face.
Hey, man, nice. Kevin McLeod.
Flashbang.
All right.
I'm blind now.
Everybody ready?
Yeah, I'm
I
ready.
hate white, green.
White.
I hate white. I hate white. I hate
White.
white. I hate
White.
white. I hate white. I
White.
hate
Crack.
Bald. Bald.
Why people do that?
white.
Why people do
All right. Hello.
Oh, okay. Hey.
What's up?
I hope you're all doing well.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
No.
Please pay attention
no.
and follow directions closely.
Simon says.
First off,
Didn't expect it
Yeah,
to be
tough.
interactive.
This liminal bullshit.
I want you to look at the person sitting to your immediate left
It's
My-
a monitor.
My wall.
and in a high-pitched voice say hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, good. Next, look to the person to your immediate right
A wall.
and rapidly shake their hand.
I'm gonna punch it. Alright, punched it.
Can a jerk get a little handy? Be a rapper.
Shut up.
Well done, well done.
Let's go.
Now, how did that interaction make you feel?
Infuriated.
Aroused.
Aroused.
Confused.
All of the
Jesus.
above.
Please also ask those seated nearby and how they felt too.
Hey guys,
Aroused.
how did Joe feel?
It's good to be considerate after all.
I don't consider your feelings an option.
Damn.
Aroused.
Is there actually anyone sitting next to you?
Yeah,
no
a few
one
hundred
with
miles
severe
away.
schizophrenia.
No. Besides the hat, man.
If there is, nice.
Yeah.
You were saved by plot armor.
Wait, what?
Now, for those who are currently seated alone,
Oh, good. I'm safe.
you fool.
Thank God I'm full. The biggest.
How did it feel interacting with nobody sitting next to you?
Screw you!
Kind of bad.
It was intoxicating.
Please also ask those seated nearby how they feel too. It's good to be considerate after all.
Looks around to nobody's the fucking one team.
I fooled you twice.
Shame on you.
Shame.
So anyway,
Yeah?
what is my presentation about exactly?
What about you?
Oh,
Yeah.
did you think that was part of the presentation too?
The music
No.
Cut off.
Well, no. There is no presentation.
Wait, what?
Schizophrenia.
I just wanted to make fools out of you.
Alright, sweet. Back to Persona.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The timing! The timing on the music! Oh my god!
That's scary.
Oh my god! That was like a villain heel twist. Oh my
That was
god.
amazing.
Oh my god. The white background with the Apple font and the fade in.
Right.
Oh my god.
Oh, freaking Purse Gates.
Yeah.
Wait, Purse Gates? No, that's Microsoft. Whatever.
That was great.
That was so good.
I love it.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
Wonderful.
thank you so much, Purse. That was great.
You're welcome.
That was a very you presentation. It even had team killing in it.
Exactly. Friendly fire, friendly fire.
Friendly fire. Okay. Here.
Alright.
Let's. Okay. I have mine next. It's not terribly long either. Here, let me add music as well. Crap. What kind of music would you? nothing really interesting. So I'll just do this and I'll turn it down. Okay, so let me close out this.
I hear classic music.
Yeah. Okay.
Sick.
So let me.
Could I skip ahead to live broadcast?
Nah.
Alright.
Okay.
Is it New Year's already?
No, it's tomorrow.
Are you New Year's?
No, I'm not.
Also, almost happy 2014, everybody. Woo!
Yeah, it's almost 2014. Post a picture of someone who made you XD this year.
I thought it was two.
Aaron dies exactly when he says that.
Alright. I wanted to talk about something that's a little hard to explain, but I think you guys will get it immediately.
Autism? Oh my
Not
god.
that type of spectrum. I'm going to kick your ass. Okay. I wanted to talk
Mr.
about...
Cum neutral?
my
Interesting.
I wanted to talk about spectrums of media that I think are cool. So, it's a little hard to explain spectrum,
What
so
does
I'll
the
just...
C stand for?
What? Oh, I'm not telling you what the C stands for. I'll kill you.
What does the C
Cock.
stand?
Okay, so essentially, when I say
Cum?
spectrums, yeah, damn it, you figured it out. So spectrums, I mainly mean, you know, when you're categorizing something, and usually it would go into like a few groups. And whenever I say spectrums, I mean categorizing something over different degrees. You know, say, like something leaning towards this a bit more, or leaning the other way a bit more. I'll provide a visual stimulus that could maybe help me out there. In our world, especially here in America, we really love taxonomy. We really love categorizing things when it's kind of unnecessary, and it can kind of lead to a lot of headache. It can be really annoying. So I think thinking of things as a spectrum rather than over just two different things could really help you when you're, especially when you think about things like different media, like games or books or movies that you like. I'll provide some examples. So I would just say, don't do this as much. You know, grouping things can be. I forgot parentheses. Grouping things as much could, you know, it could be pretty helpful when you're trying to think about things a certain way. But I think thinking over them over, again, varying degrees can kind of help you out, and honestly, just kind of fun. So I have 3 different spectrums.
Group 1 is introverts, and Group 2 is extroverts.
Thank you. That's my rationalization for only having parentheses on Group 1. So I have 3 different spectrums I'd like to go over. The first one is fantasy. Fantasy can be divided into high fantasy and dark fantasy. So I just will kind of list out different things over this, you know, spectrum to kind of highlight how things could, you know, be divided based on, you know, degrees rather than hard categories. Because sometimes if you think of dark fantasy and high fantasy, there's going to be a lot of high fantasy that carries elements of dark fantasy, and a lot of dark fantasy that'll incorporate elements of high fantasy. So I'll start at the very polar edges here. I think the darkest and the biggest exemplar of dark fantasy is pretty obvious. It would be Berserk by Kentaro Miura. It's a very realistic take on fantasy. A lot of it is kind of about like the horrors of the world and how things can be very futile, how scary everything can be, you know, how monsters are way more deadly than they would normally be depicted or that you'd normally see in, you know, fantasy. And a lot of realism is kind of based in Berserk. Berserk is very realism based, is what I was trying to say. A lot of Guts' everyday living is about struggle, and that's, you know, that's what the story is about, the dark elements of fantasy. It is one of the biggest exemplars of dark fantasy. On the very opposite side of the spectrum, one of the best examples of high fantasy would be something like Narnia. You have kids who find themselves in a different world, and they go on an adventure. They fight a clearly defined force of evil, and after it's all said and done, there's a happy ending, and they come back to their own world. There are dark elements in it, but Narnia is primarily something that is pretty relatively bright and usually uplifting and lighthearted in spirit. That's what high fantasy is. Dark Souls is dark fantasy leaning a little closer to high fantasy than, say, Berserk would. Because while Dark Souls, you know, centers a lot around, the futility of existence and how dark and terrible the world can be. There's a lot of elements of like hope. There's a lot more magic and apparent, elements of fantastical things existing. You have, the usual types of, glowing spells and, magic missiles that you can shoot out of certain, magical concentrates, chimeras and creatures that would exist in a more traditional high fantasy, but created via means of dark fantasy, like using humans to create dragons and all that stuff. It's still very dark fantasy, but it begins teetering closer to high fantasy. Beyond this, you'd have something like Harry Potter. Harry Potter is, high fantasy. It is relatively more lighthearted. It is kind of about the joys and the wonder that you'd find in a fantasy setting, but it goes into darker things like war, even dark magics that are forbidden and cast away, things that are forgotten, things that should not be brought up. Those are elements of dark fantasy, but they exist in this very whimsical storybook turned movie, and that is how Harry Potter as a high fantasy story begins, teetering towards dark fantasy. After this is something that's a bit more topical. We've been watching it recently. Made in Abyss would be dark fantasy teetering a bit closer to high fantasy. A lot of the creatures are, way more, let's say, a lot of the elements in Made in Abyss are very kind of wondrous in a way. There's a huge sense of wonder in Made in Abyss, but this is all sort of feeding into a kind of a subliminal sense of futility. Again, dark fantasy is all about futility, There's a lot of elements that kind of point to, a lot of cynicism and stuff. Made in Abyss is sort of like about how, the world can be very wondrous and it's huge and there's many things that you don't know about, but it also feeds into a very an underlying theme of saying, those things can feed into how scary the world is and how the unknown parts of the world can really make it scary and make it dark and make it dangerous. So Made in Abyss is a dark fantasy with a lot of high fantasy elements, a lot more lighthearted to feed into its darker themes. Probably the most important sense, or the most important example of high fantasy is Lord of the Rings. I would originally put Lord of the Rings all the way on the high fantasy scale, but because Lord of the Rings is the high fantasy story, but it still shares many elements of dark fantasy. They're very dark creatures, very, factions that are trying to take over that are just absolutely terrifying. And there's many events, many creatures that kind of provide this feeling of, imminent danger and imminent doom. The protagonists succeed in the end in their goals, but it's only after a really long and really grueling journey where there's a lot of losses and a lot of loss of life still. It is a world of, wonder still, of adventure and discovery, but it's still a lot of those, really kind of terrifying elements of how scary a fantasy world can be. And right smack dab in the middle is something that's inspired by Lord of the Rings. It's Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is kind of weird because it's flexible, so it can really be dictated by who's telling the story, but I'm gonna just talk about like Dungeons and Dragons itself, the lore itself. There are a lot of high fantasy elements in Dungeons and Dragons. Discovering magical trinkets, going to, kingdoms belonging to entire races with their own histories and lore. But there's really dark elements, like dark planes that harbor creatures that will take over your mind and, suck out your eyeballs or steal your prostate. There's a lot of really...
I need that.
there's
very important.
There's a lot of very scary things in Dungeons and Dragons, but at the same time, there's a lot that can call for a sense of mysticism and wonder. It is the perfect middle in between of dark and high fantasy. You could not categorize it as either a dark fantasy or a high fantasy because it is the perfect in between that compounds sort of everything together. And Dungeons & Dragons has kind of built outward to, influence a lot of other pieces of media, like the Japanese manga or novel turned anime Goblin Slayer is based on Dungeons & Dragons. And a lot of, there are many anime out there, many movies, even direct adaptations that are, based on Lord of the Rings. It is sort of like the culmination of both ends of the spectrum. I wanted to bring up some extra examples as well. Warhammer 40k is even further on the scale of dark fantasy than you'd even find Berserk to be. The dark things that are experienced by all the characters in Berserk, these are kind of everyday occurrences and normal things in, all of Warhammer. It is the darkest, one of the most depraved galaxies to exist, or one of the most depraved universes to exist, because many of the factions rely on this, these dark happenings and this futility in order to function. And a good high fantasy story where there's a happy ending and a lot of wonder and mysticism is The Princess Bride, which is a movie I find really dear. It's, there is nothing truly terrifying about The Princess Bride. It is a truly just through and through a story about wonder, about discovering things, about how interesting another fantastical world can be, where all the the good people and the deserving people win in the end, and all the bad people, they lose. And that is a good example of a high fantasy story. And I would like to clarify that in dark and high fantasy and the other two spectrums that I'll go through, neither one is ever paramount over the other one. None of these cases is one of these superior to the other. They are just a spectrum. Things are very different, and things can be made completely differently. And it is in those differences that we can have very interesting media like this. I'm going to move on, but does anyone have anything to add to this? Any pieces of fantasy media that they'd want to put into this or bring up? Nope. Anyone?
I think
Fantasy
that you
media.
put Narnia so high up there.
Oh well, I mean, Narnia was one of the most was one of the best examples of high fantasy I could think of.
I'm surprised you didn't put Peter Pan or something.
Oh, Peter Pan, yeah, good point. Peter Pan is a great example of high fantasy. That is a very, very good example of that.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like this one's a stretch. Would Gantz count as like dark fantasy?
No.
I'll go over that in the next one.
It's Gantz, primarily science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Science fiction. Okay.
Yeah, Gantz would
I
be
didn't
more
know what
science
order
fiction.
it was writing.
Yeah, it's more science fiction. Though I mean, a lot of fantasy themes could also apply to certain ways in science fiction. So you're not that far off. You're not too far off.
Okay.
All right, I'll go to my next spectrum. Oh, sorry, that's Monty Python's Holy Grail. I didn't know where to put that.
Respect.
So next, sci-fi. I wanted to do cyber versus punk. So whenever I go through this list, I'm mainly talking about things based in the cyberpunk aesthetic. I just said sci-fi as sort of an overarching kind of thing. This is a bit harder because many sci-fi and cyberpunk media have fireworks. Wow, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Purrs. Many
Thank you, Purrs.
many cyberpunk media have a lot of elements of both. So forgive me if you may disagree on some of these points. That's totally fine. You can bring them up after I finish this particular section. But I
disagree.
think a lot of sci-fi can be divided into a cyber versus punk sort of spectrum. Cyber being a higher emphasis on futuristic aspects, like neon aesthetics, high technological stuff, holograms and neon signs, that type of stuff. Punk is much more leaning towards how would I put this? The more gritty, the more down to earth, run down dystopian elements that you'd see in sci-fi. So I would start sci-fi by going starting from the middle this time instead of the far ends, because I think that would be easier to branch off from a central point. In the middle, the perfect balance between cyber and punk is the Deus Ex franchise. Mainly the original is what I'm thinking of when I do this, but it's the later games could also apply here as well because they also go by a similar structure. So Deus Ex, you have many times throughout the world where you'll see people implanted with technology, or like very fancy technology. You have implants that are very beneficial. They improve you in many ways. There's a lot of emphasis on some of the beauty of some of the areas, like say when you go to China, there's neon signs, and there's an overall sense of the beauty that can be provided by the science fiction setting. At the same time, you take many trips to like the slums in like New York, for example, or many downtrodden parts of society. Which is pretty opposite to the highly technological like science bases or science facilities that you go to in other parts of the world. Those two kind of come together and culminate into Deus Ex's dystopian future, where there's a beauty provided by a lot of the technology. Like in the later games, France is shown to be quite beautiful on the higher up, but you begin going to the slums and it is quite dingy, and the sort of dystopia that the cities become kind of feeds into like the slums and the squalor. So we can kind of branch out from here. I think this was a bit of a hard decision. I feel it could go either way, but this is how I would categorize it. I feel the franchise Cyberpunk itself leans a bit more towards the punk side. Because you see, it's way more emphasis on like neon signs and just the beauty of a cyberpunk city. But at the same time, a lot of the setting itself, you are a gangster who works in poverty. You're usually a criminal. You see people who wear very rebellious things. Much emphasis on poverty and how poor some people can be. And then there's a lot of emphasis as well on places outside of cities, like the nomads who roam in the desert. There's a lot of emphasis on them as well, which is way more punk than it is cyber, because there's not much technology out in those areas. Cyberpunk leans into and explores a lot of the punkish aspects of science fiction, especially the older books. Those are like very like almost Mad Max style. Branching in the opposite direction, a bit more of a cyber take on sci-fi is Ghost in the Shell. There's a lot more we see a lot of those slums and those poverty-stricken areas and the more gritty dingy-ness of it, but both the original movies and then standalone complex and the more recent standalone complex anime, they have a lot of emphasis on like the beauty of the city. There's a lot of scenes of like holograms. The technology is very advanced. Of course, the major one of her big things is that she has a suit that turns invisible. It is a very sleek take on a sci-fi cyberpunk setting. It begins leaning towards the more cyber aspect, especially as everyone gets these different cybernetics that begin that are very beneficial to them, with a more emphasis on the beautiful sides of cyberpunk and the cyberpunk aesthetic, essentially. Now, even further on the opposite end, further than cyberpunk, or cyberpunk like the tabletop game, would be Blade Runner. Blade Runner has a lot of neon signs and that type of beauty, but the beauty is often very subtle. A lot of Blade Runner is about like the absolute horrid nature, or the very scary nature of entering a future in which technology takes over. Blade Runner specifically was made with a lot of fear of Japanese culture, which is why you see a lot of Japanese culture around. A lot of the Japanese culture, and Japanese text and Japanese people in advertisements, the fact that many people speak Japanese, even if they're not Japanese in the movie, it feeds into a sense of dread that people are losing their culture, that technology is beginning to really be a detriment to us. and this sort of overall sense that if we go too far in this direction of the idea of technology benefiting us, we'll begin to really lose ourselves. And that is, that feeds into a lot of the more punk themes. Punk in, cyberpunk kind of covers the terrors of technology, essentially, and how scary the future can be. Cyber is more, hopeful. It's about how cool technology can be and how pretty a technologically advanced world can be. Further than Ghost in the Shell is, I put Ruiner here. Ruiner is very inspired by all of these other pieces of media, like almost directly. It's a game that it's really dear to my heart, and it has a much larger emphasis on the aesthetics of things that are holographic. Almost everything is like an LED screen in Ruiner. And the main character, Puppy, his face, it's like an LED screen. His mask that he wears is a light up screen. All the enemies wear things or wear articles of clothing that have holograms and things that glow, lights coming off of them. And even in the parts of the game where you're in slums, there's something there's something glowing and there's something that's shiny. So even in the worst places, even in the lowest slums, there's always a sort of sleekness to it and a sort of beauty to it. It's the opposite of Blade Runner, where even the beauty has a sense of terror to it. In Ruiner, even the drab places have a sense of beauty to them that feeds into this sort of love of the cybernetic aesthetic of the future. The biggest example of the farthest towards punk I could ever think of is Shadowrun. Shadowrun is sort of a world where traditional fantasy exists in a cyberpunk setting, and from my time observing the art style and looking at it, everything feeds into the punk side of the spectrum. No matter where you are, everything is dirty, dingy, and disgusting. There's trash no matter where you go. Absolute garbage wherever you go. Every character that is drawn with dirt or very downtrodden and depressed looking. All the technology is very, how do I put this? Nothing really feels that futuristic because everything is almost, again, downtrodden. Everything's very dingy and gritty and down to earth. Despite being a futuristic setting, Shadowrun's aesthetic very much concentrates on how horrible that futuristic setting is to its people. Cough break, pardon me. And on the far side of the cyber of the spectrum is Valhalla. It is a game that is almost entirely neon lights. You have a very big emphasis on how gorgeous the city can be. Of course, that doesn't mean that it doesn't tell a dark story here and there, and of course the city is still a dystopia, but aesthetically and artistically, what you are shown is still very gorgeous. All the characters, even the ones with cybernetics, are usually depicted in a very positive or a very aesthetically pleasing way, essentially. And the cyberpunk aesthetic feeds into an overall sense of beauty. That they want to appreciate the beauty that is the cyberpunk aesthetic. That is one of Valhalla's biggest calling points, and it's one of the reasons I really love the game a lot. Some other smaller examples are this one game I like, Sense. It's more of a Chinese aesthetic type thing, again leaning more towards neon aesthetics while you still explore a lot of the slums, and even then those slums look really gorgeous in their own way. It's kind of where Ruiner is, which is why I put it right there. It's how cyberpunk aesthetic or the dystopias of cyberpunk aesthetics can be very gorgeous, while even in some of the darker, more drab places. And Akira is on the opposite side of the spectrum, closer to cyberpunk, where we see a lot of those slums, a lot of the dirty places. A lot of places running on modern technology like fans and pen and paper, but also a lot of the more luxurious places that we see those famous shots of holograms and floating koi and stuff. That's Akira feeds into a much more punkish aesthetic while still having a a lot of emphasis on the bright neon cyber tones. Does anyone else want to add anything to this? Oh, Gans, I would say goes much further towards like this punk aesthetic here. It takes place in modern day. Practically, but the technology is futuristic. The suits themselves are very sleek, which is very cyber, but a lot of the technology and what they're used for is Ruminous Path. Sorry, I read that and I had to. A lot of the uses of the technology is very brutal, It's very brutal and very surprisingly down to earth. So I'd say Gans would be probably where Akira is, though it's a little harder to categorize because it's more of a modern futuristic setting rather than a full dystopia, Yeah. Is there any examples that anyone would really want to add to this that I missed?
The Matrix.
The Matrix. That's a good one. I think The Matrix definitely leans more towards the punk side of it. You almost see none of the cyber stuff. It might be all the way to the right, honestly, because the reality of The Matrix is one of modern day, so there's not much to that dystopia. And then when you exit The Matrix, it is 100% punk. There is no cyber anywhere in there.
I would actually consider The Matrix to be machine punk.
Oh yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Rather than cyberpunk.
Yeah, that's very fair. Yeah, machine punk. Either way, if
the colors that you see in most of the movies and how it's filmed are blends of grays, browns, tans, and greens.
Yeah. So, yeah. It would be hard to put on this list, though I will say that The Matrix did influence many elements of these, especially that famous text scroll that you see when they're hacking. Those have been those have that very signature text scroll with the green letters falling on the screen that has influenced a lot of cyberpunk media in the the kind of hacker aesthetic. The hacker aesthetic of The Matrix has really kind of fed into these. So, not really far off. Not really far off. Okay, you guys. I will go to the next one if there's no other suggestions. The final one I wanted to go is Mecha. This is a bit easier for me to talk about, so I have a bit more examples to feed into it. So Mecha is a bit interesting because it's kind of surprising how diverse you can make fighting robots. Mecha is usually categorized into real robots and super robots. This is something I've talked to with a lot of you about, but also something that I haven't talked to with a decent few of you. So when it comes to the world of mecha and robots, real robots is usually categorized with very realistic stories, really grounded. The robots used within them are usually mass-produced and used only as weapons. There is nothing special about the robots in real robot series. It's just that they're weapons, and that they're used as weapons. On the other hand, super robots highlight how wondrous and crazy robots can be. The robots are usually very special, they're usually very unique. Sometimes there's just one of them, and they're one of a kind, and they usually will have a power. They'll usually have powers that are beyond what technology could achieve. And also another trope of super robots is fighting an enemy that isn't human. Usually like aliens or a mindless creature, AI sometimes. Those are some of the popular themes in super robots. So the spectrum here is real robots and super robots. What's up, Tukul?
And interdimensional invaders.
Yeah, and interdimensional invaders, those two. But then aliens that would fit into aliens a little bit.
Aliens.
So the very middle, I'll start at the very middle here. The very middle of this, the perfect balance between real robots and super robots is pretty obvious. Kind of. It's Neon Genesis Evangelion. So it has super robot elements, as the Evas are pretty much one of a kind. There's only 3 or 4 of them, and what's up? Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Evas are pretty one of a kind. There's three or four of them, and they fight otherworldly threats like angels and that type of thing. But at the same time, the story is told in a very grounded way. There is technology justifying the existence of Evas, and the story is told in a sort of battle between humans and a threat that they don't know about, but in the context of almost a survival of a natural disaster. It is a very fantastical story told in a very serious and almost grounded sort of way. That's why it is a kind of perfect balance between a super robot and a real robot kind of story. Sorry. And then, of course, later on it delves into religious stuff. I won't get into that part. I'm just going to talk about the very general basis of Evangelion. So that's what allows it to be in this very kind of central balance of it. Branching off a bit towards real robots more so than Evangelion would be Super Dimension Macross. Super Dimension Fortress Macross is a fight against aliens, but it is told as a realistic military story. The aliens are fought with pretty relatively conventional mecha. That their special thing is that they transform into planes. That's what the mecha of Macross. That's its biggest call to fame, and it's a mass-produced mecha, so that leans heavily towards the real robot aesthetic. But at the same time, it has heavy super robot influences, like the fact that they're again fighting aliens in space, and the fact that the aliens are greatly deterred by music and culture and stuff like that. Those are very super robot elements. The idea that humanity is inherently beautiful and powerful because of our culture and our music. So it is a much more heavy emphasis on a realistic war with a lot of fantastical elements to balance that out. More towards super robots is Transformers. So Transformers is also a pretty realistic war, but with the subtext that the robots themselves are all unique and sentient, which is pretty super robot in that sense. All the robots have their own personalities. None of them are born; they're all built. When a Transformer dies, they can also be rebuilt. And there's even things like a Transformer God, like Primus, and Transformer Devil, like Unicron. Even things like a Star Saber, like a chosen sword that a hero can wield. The Matrix of Leadership that only the main character Prime could use to become more powerful. It is a realistic war, which brings it closer to real robot, but with a lot of elements and subtext that make it very out of this world and very grandiose and more fantastical. Or a cosmically empowered Starscream. Thank you. Yes, a cosmically empowered Starscream that kills everything. Because the British comics couldn't hold the copyright. Anyways, that is how Transformers is leans a bit more super robots, but still holds a real robot tone because of the war that it is set in. Further towards real robots, further than Macross, is Universal Century Gundam. I would put this on the far left of this if it weren't for some elements and other mecha that are more realistic.
Yeah.
Mobile Suit Gundam is kind of known as the king of real robots, or at least the pioneer of it. All of the mecha in Gundam, or Universal Century Gundam, all of the mecha are either mass-produced, and all the very special ones are only special by degrees. The Gundam, the main, mobile suit, the main mecha in its own right, its only call, or, in the original story, its only call to it being special is that it had very thick armor, and it could use beam weapons. It didn't have any superpowers. It really didn't have any, fantastical things about it. The war is told very groundedly, and all of the conflicts are usually to show how war is very gray and how there's always heroes on both sides and how there's very horrible people on both sides. It is sort of a way to tell a classic war story through the means of cool robot fights. And then of course Gundam is also dragged closer to only slightly closer to the super robot side by the existence of things like humans evolving, the idea of new types, and being able to feel each other's emotions and consciences and stuff like that. So Universal Century Gundam is one of the biggest exemplars of a very realistic mecha, with some elements here and there of, still slightly fantastical, hand-wavy science, but still a very realistic take either way. Another big example on the super robot side, further towards super robots, is Pacific Rim. In America, one of probably the biggest American take on mecha. Pacific Rim carries a lot of the super robot sort of aesthetic by it being large robots fighting monsters that come from other dimensions, and it carries this in again a slightly realistic way, but most of it is told in the context of a hero fighting villainous creatures that are trying to destroy Earth. It is very super robot in that sense. Gypsy Danger in its own right there's only one of it, and it's only one in existence, and in order to uplink with it, you need to combine two people's consciousness. It's not piloted in a traditional way. Its mechanics are very otherworldly and fictitious, and so are the creatures that it fights. The setting around Pacific Rim is very fictitious and very, let's say, not grounded as much as any other series like that. So it leans very heavily towards super robots. Most people here in America, when they think of mecha, they see Pacific Rim and they think of mecha as it being robots fighting monsters, and Pacific Rim is the reason for that. It is a big example of mecha, and it leans towards the super robot side of the spectrum. The furthest towards the real robot spectrum is Battletech. Battletech is there is no special powers. There is nothing. Of course, the story is fictitious, but nothing feels that fictitious. All of the technology in BattleTech or used in BattleTech and the game, like in the existing games like Mech Warrior and Mech Assault and all that, it's usually written with a very strong sense of realism. Every mechanic of every mech used is very grounded. There's an explanation for everything that moves. There's an explanation for every weapon. There's a mechanic, a strength and a weakness to every weapon, and that also exists for the people. Everything has a history, a grounded history, and everything has a purpose or a mechanic that could honestly have been created with our technology today if we were just a tad more advanced. Battletech is an ultimately very realistic story about war and politics, and how war could be almost endless, and how a lot of during war times, how suffering can be almost perpetuated by the whims of the government and by the existence of weapons like these. It is a very, very, very grounded story with almost no feeling of it being being fictitious. It is a very tangible story, and all the robots again are very realistic. All of them are mass-produced. Very few of them are special, and those that are special again are only special by degrees or because their pilots were very good at what they did. And on the far end of super robots is I don't know if the genre was named after this or if they named themselves after the genre, but it is Super Robot Wars. Super Robot Wars I don't know much about, but you can really tell what it is just by looking at it. It is crazy super robots. Each of them have different powers. There is no rhyme or reason or certain single philosophy to each robot that is used. Each one is completely different, has its own set of crazy powerful abilities, even magic, and it is fighting an otherworldly force, usually aliens, usually AI, usually something interdimensional, usually something that isn't needed to be humanized. And it is a group of people fighting those huge odds with very absurdly powerful mecha. And again, you have crazy mecha here. Some look like they're from Gundam, some look like humans. Like some look like humans and like they have skin and hair and everything, but they're like huge like mecha. Some have boobs. I don't know. It's just Super Robot Wars. It's crazy, and it is one of the best exemplars of the super robot side of the spectrum. It is just about very cool robots fighting in a war to save humanity. And I'm not saying that dark stories aren't told in Super Robot Wars. I'm just saying that this is a very good exemplar of that side of the spectrum. I'm just gonna put this right there. Okay, Votoms.
I was wondering.
Yeah. Votoms is another one on the very, very, very far end of the super robot spectrum. It's, the mecha in it are very glass cannony. They go down by the droves, and they do a lot of damage, but they're shown with realistic amounts of armor and weaponry, and they're quite unwieldy. The only reason they're used is because the enemies use them. It is a very need-be basis mecha, and they're quite weak when they're shown on screen. Patlabor is another good example of a super robot. Of a real robot. The Ingram itself is, again, it is just a robot that allows the police officer piloting it to fight against something else of its scale. That is the only reason it exists. And what you see it using isn't otherworldly abilities, but like standard training police judo. Like all of its weapons, like a mecha-sized magnum or a stun baton, it uses police weapons but mecha-sized. It is very realistic and grounded in reality. Armored Core is kind of under Gundam. It again, the world, the universe, and the mecha in it are very grounded in reality. The main thing pulling it towards the more super robot side is it exploring things like world-ending events and the existence of artificial intelligence that could be a big danger to people. But even then, the story is very, very grounded in reality and all that. Code Geass, again, begins leaning more towards super robot from the real robot side. It is a very realistic pretext for a war. A lot of realistic elements like race, race being a factor in people being divided, but things like the Geass, which the main character uses to control people's minds and stuff. It has magical elements, but it is a very realistic war pretext. The Big O, which is an anime that's popular over here, is very similar to the reasoning for Evangelion. It's fighting monsters with a big one-off mecha that there is no other like it, as far as I know. It is a very unique mecha made to fight other robots, big robots, and large threats. Did I say monsters earlier? I take that back. It's other big robots. But it is, despite this very super robot kind of story, it's told in a very grounded and gritty kind of setting. And everything is very heavy and clunky, which puts it at a good balance between real and super. Ideon is a very realistic story of... It is one of probably the most brutal mecha anime to exist. The main character sees like women being shot and children being vaporized throughout the show. It is a very realistic war, but it's dragged towards the super robot side because of the fact that every single attack done by this mecha is known to cause genocide. It is an absurdly powerful robot. It is known as just one of the most absurdly powerful thing like mecha to exist in the media or in the medium. And overall, despite it being a very realistic war setting, the robot itself is more a vehicle of things like revenge and hatred rather than a mass-produced weapon of war. And then of course I can't bring up UC Gundam without bringing up non-UC Gundam, specifically G Gundam. G Gundam is sort of whenever they were trying to explore things they could do with alternate timelines with Gundam. And so one of the biggest examples of this was G Gundam, where they kept the idea of the Gundam itself, but they brought it into a very different kind of light, a very different aesthetic, even a different control scheme, and they made it into a very super robot story, where each country is sort of represented by its own Gundam, and they fight in a big tournament. And there's even elements of like martial arts and like those fantastical elements feeding into the Gundam. itself, and the main Gundam of the series, it's one-off and it's very powerful. It's clearly the main characters, and overall it is a much more whimsical story that leans towards super robots, and honestly is one of the most loved examples of super robots. And that's real robots and super robots. This is a bit more than the others, I know. Does anyone have any thing to add to this? Anything that I missed? Any suggestions?
This shit is lit.
I'm glad you
That's
think so.
all I have to add.
I'm glad you think so. Thank you.
Until you added G Gundam,
Mhm.
I was like, man, it's just A's versus O's. All the primary A vowels were at the top, and all the O vowels are at the bottom.
Oh my god. Altec, Gundam, Macross, Evangelion, Transformers, Pacific Rim. Wow. Pat Labor, Armored Core, Code Geass, Big O Idea. Oh my god, what?
That is a wild coincidence.
Oh my god,
It's
jeez.
fate. It's fate.
Oh my god.
I was actually wondering, I was like, what's the last one, the Super Spectrum, gonna be?
Oh my
It's like,
god.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense, but like, man, the rhyming, the magic convention just went out the window.
Yeah. I had to put in Gurren Lagann at the very right, but I don't even have to explain that to anyone. Everyone's seen Gurren Lagann. Everyone knows that it's the yeah.
Super?
No.
For like Super,
Yeah.
up there, equivalent to maybe Super Robot Wars and near Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann.
Mhm.
Try Gunbuster.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Gunbuster is an interesting case because, at least from what I gather, it is like, again, kind of like Ideon, where it's a single robot that does, that destroys like millions of enemies in a single attack. But it's still also told in a weirdly realistic war setting. Those types of examples are always very hard to describe. But even then, despite that kind of real robot anchor, it is definitely leaning towards super robots.
Oh, it's also in Super Robot Wars as well.
It is in Super Robot Wars, yeah. I need to watch that. Yeah, Gunbuster is a great example.
Play it. Play the game.
Okay. Okay. Any last examples before I finish up? Okay. Alrighty. Well, I appreciate you guys for listening to my thinly veiled excuse to rant about my obsessions. Thank you. Appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Yay! Thank
Really
you.
appreciate that.
Wonderful.
Thank you
Thank you,
all.
Purrs.
I love you guys. Thank you,
Thank you,
Purrs.
Purrs.
Thank you, Purrs. Thank you, Purrs.
Thank you, Purrs.
Thank you, Purrs. Let's go, Purrs. Woo! Let's go. Okay, who's next?
I'd like to do Ratbag's presentation.
Okay, please.
Oh yeah.
Then I
shit.
have to leave.
Okay, sounds good. Okay.
So,
Man, even the fireworks are celebrating with the clapping.
so
Wait.
this is my first time looking at this,
Okay.
and just looking at the slides, I'm scared.
Okay.
Do it.
Oh, God.
Start.
All right, so this
beginning.
is Ratbag's presentation.
Okay.
Title: Real. Don't. My presentation is. I'm not even doing slideshow.
Do it. Do a slideshow.
Do slideshow.
It's funny at that, man.
Hey.
Don't.
Try to present.
Help! Help me! Help me! Yahoo!
I'm making that a clip later.
I need help. I need help. I have a crippling addiction to
Activate Windows.
feminine-looking men.
Yeah? Based?
相信我，因为领导的冰淇淋。It's all so real. It's all so real. It's all so money mode. The lords in Riverwood will see you pull up in a foreign and be like, "By the gods! What manner of power is that?" Anyways, on to the next slide. How to create nuclear. Osnan, Playful Nightmare, was a goblin born in 8. He was the youngest son of Statos the Dregstead, the Gilded Reign of Slaughters, and Dumbstow Crew Plagues. In the early summer of 23, the alligator Shiget Fadelash attacked Osnan. Osnan's left hand was ripped by the alligator Shiget Fadelash. Do I actually have to read all of this?
Read it.
Osnan managed to escape from the alligator Shiget Fadelash's onslaught. Osnan and Amzu Wraith became lovers. Osnan became a scout in Lie City. The alligator Shiget Fadelash attacked Osnan. Osnan was struck down by the alligator Shiget Fadelash in Lie City. Jeez, they have a vendetta against each other. The alligator devoured Osnan. Related historical figures. Statos Drigzjeda, blah 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 blah. That's his mother? Damnstow Crew Plagues is his father. Toad, Perfect Jackal, only son. And then Yuzbu Coast Dungeon, only daughter. Dude, that is a baller-ass last name.
Yeah.
Related entities, the Yellow Disloyalty. Huh? The Ambiguous Wraith.
The Yellow Disloyalty. I want to know their story.
Yeah. Haters will see you teleport and be like, he can't afford a car. Joke's on them.
Inspired pictures.
I am particle accelerating to the point where I'm creating nuclear fission. I am a source of energy.
Are these the notes that he wrote down?
No, he just gave me the presentation and said, fuck you.
Thank you. Okay, got you.
Now, many men have mad.
Yo, what is going on with this image? Look at the bottom left.
Bitch ass. This reminds me of the book 1984 by George Orwell. Valuable as a summer ant. I'm just gonna stop you.
Stop fucking kill yourself, mouse.
See, in first place we have Lightning McQueen. I was gonna call him Car McLean.
And ka-chow.
As you can see, he's in first place, being followed up by the entire cast of Super Mario Racing 2. There's something below, but we can't see. Lord forgive me. I spent all the child support cash on Sunset Sarsaparillas.
Sarsaparilla.
Sunset Sarsaparilla.
Sunset Sarsaparilla. Bastard.
Bastard.
The hose ain't ready. The hose ain't ready. Hose.
We weren't.
You hoes are not ready. Alright? The hoes are not ready.
What did he do?
He's in timeout. He wasn't ready. No, the cat, he's ready.
Yeah, he looks ready.
That's it.
Thank you, Purrs.
Thank you, Purrs. Let's go. Thank you.
What?
Oh,
Wait.
Jesus Christ.
Wait.
Oh my God, no.
Ahora.
Ah.
Oh, is that different text? Wait, Chris one, it was different text than the whole thing, right?
Whoa. That's song lyrics, but there's the N-words in there. We gotta go away.
You just posted this and then put it in the next slide.
Yahoo!
Oh, I can't edit it. He disabled editing.
He knew you would tamper with it. It was a failsafe.
Oh, it's more of the lyrics. Okay.
I'm lightheaded.
Mine had cohesion.
Yeah.
This is.
This is undiagnosed schizophrenia.
I have schizophrenia. Yeah.
This is the TF2 player's mind.
Yeah, I agree.
This is what happens in the pyro's mind. It's just this.
Oh my god.
This. Are we gonna get in trouble?
No, I don't
No.
think so.
You don't worry.
This
about
is
your
freedom of
social credit.
expression. This is
Don't-
art.
Yeah.
Don't
it
worry
is.
about your social credit.
China does not control YouTube.
Our,
Yeah.
our people descended faintly from China, so I can vouch for Ratbag's safe passage.
Don't you mean ascended? From
Yeah, I'm
this
ascended.
culture?
Yeah.
You know what the image with Lightning McQueen is missing? The Tiananmen Square copy poster.
Oh my god.
Just stands over.
Alright.
Thank
Holy
you.
Well,
Yeet.
I'm
Thank you,
gonna
Yeet.
say this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
I
you.
think with this, the presented PowerPoint suggestion by Moony has been a resounding success. We will have a part two.
I actually had
2020.
one more that is super
Oh?
short.
Oh,
I made two in the case that we would have to fill for some time.
uh-huh.
Can I share
Say it
mine
for the
really
next-
quick? It's very short.
All
But,
right.
I
I
have
was
to
gonna
take
say,
my
say
leave.
it
Oh,
for the
okay.
next one.
Yeah, okay.
There are 5 people all
Oh.
running rampant in my house.
Oh. Okay, please do, Yeet. Please, please.
Have a
do.
good night.
Have a good night.
Good night,
Yeet.
Yeet.
See ya.
Rest
Good
of the
night.
night. See ya.
Thank you, Purrs.
Actually, yeah. If we're gonna have another one, I'll save mine for next time. But again, it's really short though, so I'd have to add a bunch to it.
I mean, I believe you, but save some extra content for next time around.
Okay.
Besides, I'm pretty sure there's some people who might get inspired from this one.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay.
Excuse me. Also, thank you for being the vanguard, Moony.
Thank you, Moony.
No, but I mean, it was like a offhand suggestion. I never would have thought that Neutral would
No.
actually host an event. But
No,
thank you all
I
for.
bet you went first. Is what I mean.
Yeah. Since you went first, thank you for starting us off.
Oh, I see. No problem. I hope my presentation was cohesive enough.
Oh, it was. It
Ah.
was. It was
The
amazing.
hour and 10+ minutes that it was very cohesive,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
regardless of.
Oh, have a good one, Purrs.
on-
Purrs is leaving.
Okay. Good night.
How is he leaving? He's already in his house.
He's leaving call.
We'll call back.
Happy New Year's Eve, brother.
Purrs, you're literally a citizen. You can't get deported. What? I am being exported.
As a
Well,
PNG.
hopefully they.
No,
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 hopefully
as a
they.
JPEG, definitely as a.
All right. Well,
Maybe
be sure
as a
to,
web.
full taxation or representation. ESD? Yeah. Penile stress disorder. Alright, get out of here. Have a good night. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Purrs. Much love, brother.
Night.
Of course.
Thank you, Purrs.
Thank you, Purrs. But yeah, Moony, no, thank you for suggesting it. I mean, Soul brought up the idea one time of having a night where we just tell each other our sort of stories. Like if I were to have a night where I tell everyone about color code and stuff like that, and then everyone else shares their own. And then you brought that up, and I was like, you know, it'd be nice. It would just be fun to have a night where you just present things, you know. So it just kind of became this. But no, it was you that suggested the idea, and you were the first one to present. So credit is all yours, and just thank you for starting us off in both ways.
Thank you, Purrs.
Thank you. No, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Moody.
Thank you.
No, I was gonna thank you for everyone that also attended and found interest in it too.
Of course, it was great. It was
It was very fun.
It was
Yeah.
even better than when you told me about it like originally. That was so fun.
I'm glad.
Yeah, that was super fun.
Thank
Wait a
you,
minute.
G.
Oh, I just remembered. There was something I wanted to post in voice chat as an award for having did the presentation successfully.
Yeah.
Have God's omelet again.
Yay!
Good job. Good
I'm
job.
so confused.
Wait, I have like multiple Godzilla as food pictures saved on my picture. Let me grab them all.
Oh yeah.
God's omelet.
But formally, that ends our that ends our PowerPoint night. So I appreciate you all for coming. Just thank you all for making it. That was a lot of fun. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. I'll end the recording now. Any last words before I stop? 3, 2,
Scored.
We're doing this again.
Scorn.
School.
We're doing another.
We'll probably do another. Yeah.